Today's book is The Whingdingdilly by Bill Peet. Scamp flopped down heavily on the porch with a mournful sigh. The old farm dog had been in a miserable mood for weeks, and no one knew why. Not even his best friend, Orvie Jarvis, could guess what the trouble might be. Before the dark mood crept over Scamp, he had been a happy, carefree dog. He was always up early, racing out of the barn ahead of Orvie, eager for the boy to finish the morning chores so the two of them could go rambling around the countryside. Now Scamp moped on the porch while Orvie called him. Then he came drooping along at the boy's heels, sad-eyed and listless, not caring how long it took to finish the chores. "What's come over you, old Scamp?" asked Orvie one day. "What makes you so sad?" Scamp's only reply was a dreary sigh. There was no way of telling Orvie that he was tired of being a dog, that he wanted to be a horse. Not just any horse. Scamp wanted to be a great horse like Palomar, the giant Percheron who lived on the farm just across the road. Back in those days, there were lots of buggies and wagons, so horses were very important. Palomar was especially important. He won blue ribbons at horse shows and fairs all over the country, so he was famous. People traveled hundreds of miles just for a look at the great horse, and Palomar always treated the crowd to a good show by high-stepping around his pasture in true champion style. Everyone admired Palomar, but no one ever gave Scamp so much as a glance. No one but his friend Orvie. Scamp often dreamed that he was the famous Palomar, surrounded by an admiring crowd. Sometimes, when the dog was sure no one was watching, he would imitate the gray horse and go high-stepping around the barn lot with his nose in the air. Then one day, Orvie caught him at it. "Ha! Scamp," he chortled. "What are you up to? Who do you think you are, you silly old dog?" Scamp had never felt so foolish in all of his life. To be called a silly old dog was more than he could bear. And while Orvie was busy feeding the chickens, Scamp went slinking out of the barn lot and on down the road. He was running away. Just where he was going, he had no idea. But after trotting along for about a mile, the dog found himself panting. It was a hot afternoon, much too hot to be trotting about in a shaggy fur coat, and when he came to the dense woods, he stopped. Scamp had heard about this place. People believed that a wicked little witch lived there who possessed great magic power, and if anyone dared to enter the woods, she might turn them to stone or into a toad. But Scamp was in no mood to worry about a little witch, so in he went. It was much cooler in the dark, spooky woods, and ever so quiet. The only sound was the burbling of a brook running along through a jumble of rocks. The brook finally trickled down to a crystal-clear pool, where Scamp stopped to stare at his gloomy reflection. This was the first time he had taken a good look at himself, and more than ever he wished he were a horse. All at once, the hair at the back of his neck bristled. Someone was watching. Quickly, Scamp wheeled around, looking left and right, and then finally up into the sycamore. And there was the little witch, leaning out the window of her tree house. Scamp was on his feet, all ready to run, when the witch said, "So you want to be a horse, do you?" And before you could say "scat," she flew out the door and down the stairs and was nose to nose with the bewildered dog. "Why, old Zildy can turn you into a horse in a twinkling," she said, patting him gently on the head. "Oh, but I can do much better than that, doggy. How would you like to be something fantastic, the one of its kind in the whole world? A marvelous, magnificent something I call a Whingdingdilly. What do you say?" Scamp cocked his head in thought for a few seconds. Then, with a wag of his tail, barked his yes bark. "Good dog! So we'll get on with it," she cried, snapping off a twig of sycamore. "I don't really need a wand. Any old thing will do. My magic power is all in the words. Just watch." Suddenly, Zildy was dancing around like a grasshopper, waving the twig in the air, and in her high, screechy voice she recited the magic words. "Diggity-doggity, ziddle-dee-zump. We'll start right off with a camel hump. Then camel hind legs, Skaroodle-dee-doo, with zebra stripes and a zebra tail too. Now for a neck or a snickety-snaff with squarish bronze spots like a giraffe. Kalumpity-mumbo-jumbo-cudgelephant. Here's the big feet and front legs of an elephant. Zum-zum-zaroot, most anything goes, so how about a rhinoceros nose? Then elephant ears, kerflippity-flop, and reindeer horns, zilly-zop out the top. I've done it, Zilly cried zephyrily. There you are, dog, the one and only Whingdingdilly. Go take a look at yourself. The sudden change made him dizzy, and Scamp tottered unsteadily on his new set of legs as he turned about to face the pool. What he saw was much too much to take in all at once, and with a loud rhino snort, he went staggering backwards. See what I mean, said the little witch. You're one whopping big surprise. Now I'd better skedaddle if I'm going to make cookies today. And Zildy scurried up the steps into the treehouse, leaving the Whingdingdilly wondering what he would do. Finally, he decided he'd better go home. Just as he started off, the witch called out the window, "Take care you don't step in my tulip bed with those big clumsy feet of yours." In the shadows of the sycamore were bright rows of yellow flowers, and as he headed back through the trees, he was careful to step around them. Making his way through the dense woods had been easy for the dog, but now it was almost impossible for the Whingdingdilly. It was a struggle every step of the way, with his antlers catching in tree limbs, the rhinoceros horns hooking into vines, and the clumsy elephant feet stumbling over the logs, and the camel feet tripping over the elephant feet. The going was so slow that it was near sundown when he finally made it to the edge of the woods. As Scamp poked his head through the trees, he surprised a sow and her 6 piglets. Squealing in terror, they went racing pell-mell away through the weeds. What a fright I must be, thought Scamp. I'm in no shape to be running around in plain sight. No telling what people might do. Then stretching his long giraffe neck, he raised his head for a view of the countryside. As far as he could see, the fields were deserted, and so were the roads. All the farmers had gone to dinner, so there was a good chance of getting home without being seen. As he lumbered out into the open road, he found the going much easier. It was just a matter of keeping the long striding camel legs from overrunning the plodding elephant legs. And he was clumping along at a pretty good clip when all at once he heard Orby calling. "Here, Scamp! Here, Scamp! Here, Scamper boy!" He was coming up the road just over the next hill. If Orby should come face to face with a Whingdingdilly, especially in the eerie light of the evening, it might scare his scrawny little friend out of a year's growth. That wouldn't do. In one clumsy leap, Scamp was over the fence and went sprawling headlong into a wheat field. There he remained flat to the ground, scarcely breathing and as still as a wheat shock. When Orby came to the top of the hill, he stopped for one last call, such as a loud, "Here, Scamper!" that had echoed for a mile across the countryside. Then he listened for an answering bark, but there was only the faraway crowing of a rooster. Where could he be, wondered Orby as he turned and headed back down the road. Scamp raised his head to watch until the boy was no more than a speck in the distance. Then, with an effort, he hauled himself to his feet and hobbled over the fence back onto the road. By this time he was getting leg-weary, and he went plodding along ever so slowly. It was growing dark when he finally reached the Jarvis farm. Cautiously he pushed open the gate, tiptoed across the yard to the house, and peeked in the kitchen window. The family had just finished dinner. Everyone but Orby, who sat at the table staring at his plate. "Scamp is always home by dinner time," said the boy. "Something's happened to him, or he'd be here." "If old Scamp's really gone for good," said his father, "then I'll tell you what. The Armstrongs have a new colt, and if they'll sell him, he's all yours. How would you like that, son?" "It's not the same," said Orby. "You can't get to know a horse, not like you can a dog. Old Scamp understood just about everything I said. He was a lot smarter than any horse, and besides, he was a good friend. Scamp could hardly believe his big flappy ears. So Orvy didn't really mean it when he called him a silly old dog? In fact, Orvy thought he was smart, and Scamp heaved a great sigh of relief. But what would Orvy think of a Whingdingdilly? Scamp decided to wait until morning to find out, and he stood there in the dark until he was sure everyone had gone to bed. Then the Whingdingdilly stretched out full length on the front porch with a monstrous yawn. Maybe this is nothing but a bad dream, he thought, and when I wake up, I'll be the same as ever. Pretty soon he was sound asleep and snoring just like a rhinoceros. The next thing Scamp knew, it was morning, and Orvy was shouting, "Dad! Mom! Come quick! There's a thing! A great big thing out there!"